We're getting super punished for not having Sunhome here, but maybe we'll be able to get the win here despite having no Sunhome in the list. Hello and welcome, guys. Before I jump into the deck tech here, I wanted to point out just very quickly, I'm currently at 87 subscribers. Whenever I hit 100 subscribers, I do plan on doing something special, and I need your help to figure out what that will be. If you have an idea for a deck that I should play through a league, or some kind of meme content, or even just a normal old Q&A, if you guys want to drop some questions in the comments below, or just suggestions on what I should do for my 100 subscriber video, and let me know what you want to see, as this is a channel about you. If you do happen to get any learning or enjoyment out of my videos, then go ahead and like and comment and subscribe, as is the usual on this channel. But yeah, I'm looking for your input. Leave it in the comments below. Yeah, let's just jump straight to the deck tech. Alright guys, so we are here with what we're playing today. I don't have a name for it just yet. Right now I'm just calling it a list with 14 green sources. So whatever the inventive, catchy YouTube title, thumbnail, all that good stuff, whatever that says this list will be called is what it will be called. But for right now, the only thing that is really interesting about this list, in my opinion, is we are playing 14 green sources on turn 1 to cast our Grazers and Scouts and Amulet of Vigors. As you can see here on this hyper geometric calculator by StatTrek, we can calculate exactly the likelihood of drawing one of those green sources in our opening 7 cards, and using 60 cards as our deck size. 14 is the number of green sources we have available for turn 1, 7 cards in hand, and one of those green sources from the 14 in our 7-card hand. We see that we are 86% chance likely to find a green source in our opening 7. This means that if we have a Sakura-Tribe Scout or an Amulet or a Grazer, along with that one forest, we should be able to cast it on turn 1 reliably about 86% of the games that we play. So just about 9 out of 10 times, or somewhere between 8 and 9 out of 10 games, we should be able to play our 1-drops on turn 1. And that is the idea behind this deck list, is just trying to make sure we're casting our 1-drops on turn 1, especially with a conversion to Sakura-Tribe Scout over Grazer here. A card that really would like to be played on turn 1 and no turn after, if I'm being completely honest. We want to maximize our ability to do so, and so all of these 14 cards right here are green sources, in addition to the fact that we have things like Ghost Quarter, Radiant Fountain, and Slayer Stronghold in order to play Amulet on 1 even more consistently than these green 1-drops. So we should always be casting something on turn 1, given that we have the 1-mana card, and that's where we're going with this list. Of course, in order to fit so many extra green sources, we're playing a billion of basic forests, for example. We have made some concessions, and that is these 5 cards here over in the sideboard. I would usually like to play a 3rd Tolaria West for purposes of chaining Titans endlessly until our opponent dies, but we can't fit that one in. Neither can we fit 2 of the 4 Castle Garenbrigs, as Garenbrig is not a untapped source for turn 1, and Forests and Breeding Pool are, so hopefully trimming down on Garenbrigs won't be super impactful. We're also not playing the 1 copy of Sunhome, Fortress of the Legion, and a recent gameplay, I felt like double striking our Titan hasn't been particularly relevant. It's almost always about getting Titan into play, and usually getting Valcut triggers, or setting up another Titan with Tolaria West, or attacking immediately and setting one of those things up for the future. And Sunhome doesn't really come into play. And the only time Sunhome is particularly relevant is in double Amulet draws, but let's be honest, if you've got 2 Amulets and a Titan in play, you're doing pretty good. So I'm trying to see how this goes without the Sunhome. And then finally, we have to cut 1 bounce land, the Selesnya Sanctuary here, in order to fit in an extra green source, and instead I've included a copy of Crumbling Vestige here in addition to what we usually play, so now we're playing 2 Vestiges instead of 1, sort of as a pseudo-bounce land, as with an Amulet in play, you get 1 colorless mana from tapping the Crumbling Vestige, plus the mana that it floats, so effectively 2 mana, sort of like a bounce land in that sense, and it doesn't make you pick up a land, and, barring all of that, you can just use it to cast your 1-drop on turn 1, so that's the idea. We're playing 1 fewer bounce than we would like, maybe 1 fewer Tolaria West than we would like. And also, we've got our Colony Garden here in the sideboard rather than the main board. I felt like of the main board bullets here that we have as far as lands to search, Colony Garden has been consistently the weakest. And matchups where you want to produce a blocker, for example, against Prowess, oftentimes just threatening to block with a Titan or a Grazer, Scout, or a Zeusar, or whatever that you already have in play, is usually going to be good enough to block your opponent's creatures, and instead you'd rather be getting a Radiant Fountain to get guaranteed life out of your land drop in order to make sure that you don't get burned out by Lightning Bolt and such. The only place we're really going to miss Colony Garden, And the reason why it's still in the sideboard here is against these black-green mid-range decks where they can keep the board clear, and then you slam a Titan, you go search for whatever you search for, and your opponent just plays Liliana of the Veil minus to make you sacrifice your Primeval Titan. Well, if you're able to search for a Colony Garden off of your Titan ETB trigger, then that gives them one less out in order to answer your Titan. But I felt like that is matchup specific enough to include the Colony in the sideboard instead. But we do still have Bog, Ghost Quarter, Radiant Fountain, Hasteland, of course, all on the main board here, and we do have Colony in the sideboard, so otherwise this is pretty typical stuff. If you're interested in learning the card choices for Amulet, what is typical, and some of the basic lines and patterns, I do have a video, link in the description below, for introducing beginners to Amulet Titan, so if you haven't seen it already, then go check it out. And yeah, that's the deck tech. Let's just jump straight into match 1 here. Alright, we have found a match, so let's go ahead and hop in here. On the play, I love it, playing against Martyr1207. Not a username that I'm familiar with, but that's alright. And here we have a hand that has the potential to cast Titan on turn 4, given that we play a Azusa or a Dryad on turn 3. Azusa on turn 3 would let us cast Dryad on turn 4 without having to top deck an untapped source. Dryad would require us to have an untapped source, I think maybe 1 or 2 untapped sources in hand. No, we would need 1 untapped source for Azusa to Titan on turn 4, and 2 untapped sources for Dryad. Usually turn 4 Titan is supposedly a keep, at least in the words of F. Paulus Z, if you've ever watched his streams. I'm not really a believer in the turn 4 Titan on the play, though, to be honest. I think that turn 4 Titan is just too slow. We have the potential to get Dryad triggers, which is interesting, and we have a backup Titan, though. So I guess, for the sake of testing, I'm going to keep this, and see how this turn 4 Titan hand pans out, and we'll give it a shot through the ringer here. An untapped source off the top is great, as it means that we can use our Azusa to cast Titan on turn 4. And of course our opponent's leading on turn 1 Tron land map. They're going to have turn 3 Tron, which is probably going to be better than our turn 4 Titan, but we'll see. Put this Growth Chamber into play, pick up this Forest. Pass it back to our opponent. Still haven't managed to find another land source here, which is a little bit troubling. And our opponent does have turn 3 Tron, of course. Okay, well, I mean, we're playing Azusa here. And the hopes that we can top deck our untapped source or bounce land in order to cast our Titan this upcoming turn. And our opponent has turn 3 Tron. Let's see if that beats our turn 4 Titan hand. This is exactly the reason why I don't particularly like keeping turn 4 Titan hands, even on the play, as things like this happen. But maybe our opponent doesn't have the payoff. Nope, they have Karn. Well, that's interesting. They probably hit a bounce land here. Yeah, the Growth Chamber. Alright, well, we need a lot of help here. Amulet off the top is a good start. We're just going to jam a 3-drop into this board, though. Try to clock our opponent's Karn if at all possible. I think we do hit the Karn, so they can't minus on another land from us. Try to keep it as far away from minusing on our land sources here as possible. Bounce land off the top would be by far the best top deck, I'm sure. Get rid of this Summoner's Pact, I do believe. I think we have all the creatures that we would need access to here, so. Could exile a Grazer. There's definitely merit to that. Haven't done any math as far as how much mana we're going to need. Ugin the Spirit Dragon. Well, that's a great reason to have kept Grazer in hand here. I get to wipe our field here and get a minus on Karn this upcoming turn. I think we're just getting stomped here. Kind of unfortunate. Explore. I mean, I guess we play that one. Second Amulet is actually pretty good. We'll play an Amulet out here and hope to top deck a bounce land so we can play second Amulet off of the forest into bounce land. Float 6, play Titan. But then we don't even have the Sunhome thing for double strike, so of course they minus on our Sanctuary, which makes a lot of sense. Luckily our Amulet can't get hit by their Ugin minus here, as it is a colorless permanent. Does not have one or more colors. Opponent has Oolong. Alright, well, I think we're pretty done with this game. Not looking great for the turn 4 Titan on the play. Have to say that, but maybe that's just confirmation bias. We want our Sage here, and our Force of Vigors. Probably because our opponent is playing Card in the Great Creator, but at the very least we can force a turn 1 map and try to keep our opponent off Tron, as I think that makes a good amount of sense. In this matchup, we're not going to want the Bog. I could even see a Tireless Tracker, but I'm not sold on it. We don't need this Grazer, I don't think. And 1 Cavernous Souls can go, although they do cast Scout on turn 1, which is quite good. But I feel like having access to all of our other cards, it makes more sense. I could even see trimming 1 Summoner's Pact to have an extra 1-drop here, but I just don't see the need for it, so... Is there any other land we would want to cut? Radiant Fountain is pretty irrelevant here. Yeah, I'd rather have the Cavern over the Radiant Fountain, just because Cavern casts Scout on 1, and Radiant Fountain doesn't, so... We'll try that. On the play, of course. We have a double Amulet hand, but no bounce land in sight. That said, we can pack for a 3-drop potentially, and if we draw any bounce land, this hand is just gas. We're getting super punished for not having Sun Home here, but maybe we'll be able to get the win here despite having no Sun Home in the list. They mulligan to 5, of course looking for their Tron, as they're supposed to do. Tron players even sometimes mulligan to 4 or 3 cards just to find Tron, and usually it's correct, because that's the one thing their deck is trying to do, and if you don't have turn 3 Tron, then you probably should just mulligan. Our opponent has kept their 5, though. So let's lead on our Cavern naming, I guess, just Giant here, and playing out an Amulet. There's some consideration to naming Scout, for example, with Cavern, as the uncounterable on our Titan is unlikely to matter, but we'll see. Turn 1 to map. You got it. Explore. Well, we can play our Amulet and then Garenbrig float 2 into Explore, and still have an Explorer ready to go if we top deck bounce land, so that seems like the plan. Of course, Garenbrig entering tapped here because we don't control it forest. We'll explore. Bounce land? Ooh. It's not the prettiest bounce land in the world, actually. But because we have Cavern on Giant, we actually can still cast Titan this upcoming turn, so that's cool. If we had put Cavern on not Giant, if we had put it on Scout, for example, then we wouldn't have enough green mana, so this is one argument to have put Cavern on Giant. No guarantee that that was a correct play, though. As what is the likelihood that we draw exactly Boros Garrison as our bounce land for this hand? But luckily for us, it looks like it's going to pan out, so just have to make sure that we're not going to die to not having enough green sources, but considering we don't even have to Summoner's Pact this turn, it might be fine. Our opponent doesn't have another Tron land here. If they're holding up Nature's Claim, we perhaps want to try not to get a Dryad into play and potentially lose to Summoner's Pact. I think just getting a Ghost Quarter here might be good enough to set up. We can probably even get Ghost Quarter and Vesuva, and just use the Vesuva to copy Ghost Quarter in our turn upcoming, and then Ghost Quarter one of their Tron lands. Like, we don't even have to Ghost Quarter in this turn, so I'm just gonna get a Titan into play here. And attack with it, of course. I guess our opponent could have double Dismember, but on 4 cards, I'm not really gonna play around that. We even have a Summoner's Pact backup, if that's the case, so it's really no big deal. I think we do have to pick up the Cavern here, though. Need this red-white source in play for us to be able to haste our Titan here. Our opponent just scoops it up. Good enough for me. Alright, so now on the draw for Game 3. Really would have liked a better chance in Game 1 here, so I don't think we want to change anything, though. Nope, I'm just gonna submit it like this. I do love me some Tireless Tracker, but this is just too fast of a matchup to be playing a 3-mana 3/2. And we have a no Amulet hand. We do get to Explore on turn 2, but we're on the draw also. We don't have a particularly fast Titan here, as Explore only puts us 1 land drop ahead, so without drawing any other cards, this hand just plays Titan on turn 5. That's probably not fast enough, so I'm gonna mulligan it. Hopefully we find an Amulet. We don't. We have a turn 3 Dryad. Reclamation Sage to interact if our opponent doesn't just have Barn. And we have the Ghost Quarter naturally to try to mess with their land base, so I think we do keep this. And I actually am just going to bottom the Rec Sage here, as our interaction is going to be Ghost Quarter, and we want all of our lands, if at all possible, so turn 1 Star, that's fine. Let's just play out this Windswept Heath, I suppose, and pass it back. Don't want to show our opponent the Ghost Quarter. No need to give them that information. If they go Stirring here for a land. Is that a word? Stirring? What would that word be? I don't even know what word I'm looking for. Let me know in the comments if you can think of it. If they Stirrings for a Tron land, or they just play Power Plant and then cast Scrying. Okay, so we do need to Ghost Quarter in this upcoming turn, which is kind of tragic, but that's okay. They find Forest. Bold move, opponent. Alright, so they have the other Tron land in hand, is what that means. Very interesting. I mean, we're definitely going to Ghost Quarter them here, but we're quite far behind at this point. We'll do it in their draw step, so they are more likely to draw another land here that they don't want access to. We'll hit the power plant. I believe that's the one they played last. Yeah, they played the power plant second, so I'm going to hit that one. Supposedly, they're more likely to expose redundant Tron lands on turn 1, as it doesn't make sense to play your unique Tron land out as the first thing your opponent can target. So, I'm going with the second one here, but there's some sort of art to it, of course. It's not an art that I understand. If you know the art of which Tron land to choose with a Ghost Quarter, then let me know, because I need to learn. Our opponent has Tower, of course. They play the sphere that they found off of their stirrings, right? Yep. Alright. Let's just cross our fingers, no whammies. Don't let our opponent have the extra Tron piece, and yeah, we'll just see what happens. I'm just going to play out a Forest here. We still have turn 3 Dryad regardless, so... Alright, opponent. I know you play Tron, and your whole deck is based around assembling Tron, but just don't do it. No Tron for you. You don't need it. Oh, well, they have Tron, but they can't cast something big this turn. Not like that makes a huge difference. I think we're losing to Tron. We'll see. I guess they could have a Karn or a Thought-Knot Seer to play here. Star. Doesn't change anything. Still could have Karn or Thought-Knot Seer. Or they could just pass. They don't even crack the Star, which is interesting to me. Let's throw a Dryad into play, of course. Valcut's an interesting one. Yep, let's just get this Dryad out. Put in, I guess, the Growth Chamber, so that we have access to 2 untapped lands to play this upcoming turn and cast Titan if our opponent has literally nothing. Of course, this gives them a great Karn liberated target, but what can you do? Gotta play the cards you're given. Maybe our opponent doesn't have Karn liberated. They Nature's Claim. Oh, Wilt, our Dryad. Alright, alright. Well, have nothing. This feels like Karn. Yep. Well, we're soundly getting stomped here. So if we play land, pact for Azusa, and play Force Valcut, they can minus on 1 land, and we'll still have 4 in play to pay for the pact. So I guess that's what we have to do. I really don't love it, but I mean, we don't really have a choice, so we need to try to get ahead as much as possible here, and this is the best way to do that, I do think. Azusa being the play here, so we can get as many land drops out of our hand as possible. And I guess we just play the Forest here, so we have more green sources in play, in case our opponent wants to uptick and make us get rid of this Vestige. We can still top deck an untap source or a bounce land to cast Titan if they don't interact with our lands or our creature on board. We'll see. Do exile the Vestige here, of course. Not sure if Titan in play here actually does a whole lot for us, to be honest. Just gets eaten by a Karn minus. So, we've got a lot of work to do here. Our opponent has a Wormcoil, perhaps? Just another Karn, just slamming it, huh? Wonder what they do with this one. Keeping us from having Titan here. Makes sense. Great Creator in play. Okay. I think we are probably pretty clear to just go ahead and scoop this up. Our opponent can just restart the game with Karn liberated and have a Titan in play at the beginning of this upcoming game and just kill us with our own 6/6. So, definitely no reason to play this one out. Coding, of course. Oh, it's not like we could have cast Titan this turn anyways, so I guess we leave the Breeding Pool untapped. Not sure there's a reason to do so. Alright, land. I suppose there's nothing we can do here. Even if we drew exactly Titan and our opponent did not interact with our board at all, we wouldn't be able to haste our Titan. We'd be able to float a red and a white by activating Garen Brigg, leaving Valka untapped, and getting a Crumbling Vestige and the haste land. But we wouldn't be able to have the haste land untapped, so there's nothing we could even do here if we wanted to. We're just going to go ahead and scoop it up here. Bit underwhelming. Like I said, maybe a turn 4 Titan on the play is not good enough in today's Modern. I never thought that it was. I feel like I've lost many games to trying to play a Titan on turn 4 and our opponent just stomping us, and that's exactly what happened in our game 1 here, so maybe that's a lesson to learn. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Is a turn 4 Titan on the play a keep or not? And that's all I have for you for this match. Remember to put your suggestions in the comments below as to what I should do for my 100 subscribers video, and I will see you guys in the next match. This is Red Face Menace, signing off.